Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Sky's the Limit. I'm your host Umar Khalid. But normally in our show what we do is that we interview personalities, people who have worked a lot in their respective fields, and we highlight what they've done and how that can be a symbol for so many other people to follow. This time we're kind of deviating from our normal set pattern, and we're talking about an organization that began way back in 1979 and has been working diligently for the Pakistanis that are living all around the world, for the benefit of the Pakistanis that are living all around the world. And indirectly it also benefits our country, that is Pakistan. I am talking about the Overseas Pakistan Foundation, or the OPF, which is an, of course, autonomous body that works under the Ministry of Overseas Pakistanis and Human Resource Development at the Government of Pakistan. We have the privilege of having with us for this special interview the Managing Director of OPF, Dr. Amir Sheikh. Dr. Sheikh, thank you very much to have joined us.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Dr. Sheikh, 1979 is the year that this organization began. Why did the government take so long to start an organization for the Pakistanis that live abroad? And there is a huge chunk of Pakistanis that lives abroad.
In fact, if you look at the statistics, the migration of Pakistanis abroad started with the discovery of oil in the GCC. So that was the time in the early 70s when Pakistanis started moving in big numbers to the Gulf, and hence the realization on the part of the government that we need an organization which can look after the welfare of overseas Pakistanis and their families. Hence it came into its existence on 23rd March 1979, and as you already said, it's been 40 years now. OPF has done a lot for the overseas Pakistanis. However, there are many areas where we are now getting into and doing greater welfare for the overseas Pakistanis.
When we talk of overseas Pakistanis, you know, whenever somebody works for an organization, for that organization to properly prosper and develop, there needs to be a certain passion about it. I see that passion in you. I'm not trying to butter you up, but I'm just trying to tell you very openly on how the facts are as I see you. Because you have a background as far as overseas Pakistanis are concerned. You were a community welfare attaché in the past. You were also heading the Overseas Employment Cooperation in the past, and then you began with the OPF. Was this a continuation of that zeal to work for overseas Pakistanis, or was that a passion that you developed slowly and steadily for the people that are abroad and who are Pakistanis?
I think both. In fact, the fact remains that we, the civil servant, are at the disposal of the government for their services, as far as their services are concerned. As far as the services are concerned, they're at the disposal of the government. In fact, I remained posted in this sector for quite a while out of my kind of 29, 30 years of service. I've been in this sector for almost 10 years now, and I've kind of developed a passion in terms of service to the overseas Pakistanis and for their welfare as well. I have started to understand the subject a little bit more, and now I think I'm a little better placed in terms of offering my services and of the organization for the welfare of overseas Pakistanis.
All right. Speaking of overseas Pakistanis, now that you're here in this service for more or less 10 years, could I have an estimate of the amount of Pakistanis who live abroad?
Exact numbers, the last figures that we have received from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in terms of the size of the diaspora is around 9.6 million, which is 96 lakhs, almost 1 crore. It's greater than one province of Pakistan. So they are too big a number to be ignored. The government needs to provide services to these overseas Pakistanis who are contributing a lot to the economy of Pakistan in terms of remittances, in terms of their technical expertise, in terms of the charity that they're doing, in terms of the contribution they make in terms of what they have learnt abroad by coming back, the brain gain from the brain drain, and so on and so forth. So the size of the diaspora is almost 9.6 million. Million, 96 lakhs.
All right.
Out of this 9.6 million, which is 96 lakhs, around 26 lakhs are in Saudi Arabia alone, which is the biggest number. Then UAE, it's around 16 lakhs. Then is UK, it's around 15 lakhs. And then US, it's around 10 lakhs. So put together, 26 plus 15 plus 16 plus 10, we can account for almost 60-65% of the diaspora as such in these 4 countries as such. Pakistanis haven't left any country in the world which is not populated by them. I mean, not it's just that the countries where the economies are not as good as the other countries like the West or the GCC, they are found in lower numbers. Why? The migration of any Pakistani is basically economic. In terms, they're basically economic refugees moving out for better or greener pastures, so to speak. So, I mean, there has to be an organization or a body which looks after for the welfare of their families here in Pakistan and their welfare abroad through the Pakistani missions, etc., etc.
All right. When you talk of the different Pakistanis who are abroad, you say that most of them are in the GCC. Then there is a certain percentage in Europe, United Kingdom, and in the US. Which are the fields that these people are employed in these different countries?
In fact, if we are to have a breakup of the categories, professional categories in which they're working, the majority of population, of overseas population that we have of overseas Pakistanis is labor. Around 40% is raw labor. It is mainly stationed in GCC. Then is the semi-skilled categories, then is the skilled categories, and the professional and highly professional categories, they're very small, like 2 to 4%, like doctors, engineers, chartered accountants, etc., etc. They are, very small percentage, and the basic percentage, around 80% is of labor, which is non-skilled, semi-skilled, and skilled. That constitutes around 80% of the total workforce.
All right. So, not highly educated people form the basic crux of the overseas Pakistanis. Keeping that in mind, A, what are the main objectives and the vision of the OPF? And B, seeing that their level of literacy might not be as high, how do you get in touch with them to tell them, all right, we are here to help you out in case you have any issue?
First the question of outreach. How do we reach them? The extension of the government of Pakistan abroad is our embassies or missions. Pakistan has around 100 plus missions in various countries, and that covers almost the majority of diaspora. Our mission have community welfare attaches. They are dedicated, their officers were dedicated for the welfare of overseas Pakistanis. We have 19 community welfare attaches working in 14 different countries. This is one outreach program that the government has, followed by, we have now our website, OPF's website, which is an online portal. It's a two-way street. Furthermore, we send our brochures, leaflets, posters, flyers, etc., to the embassies, so that whenever an overseas Pakistani walks into the embassy, he finds them at the reception desk. So this is for the overseas Pakistanis that are abroad. Majority of the overseas Pakistanis who are in the GCC, there is no naturalization process, and as such, since they do not immigration with I, they do not get the nationality. Majority of their laborers' families or workers' families are in Pakistan. So that is one big population chunk that we need to cater in terms of provision of services like education, like housing, like traveling, like health, etc., etc. About the outreach as far as the families are concerned, well, this is one more attempt to reach out to the families, to letting them know as to what the services are being offered for them by the government of Pakistan. This particular even program, this is part of our outreach. Recently, the government of Pakistan thought about another initiative. We wanted to make a documentary about 6 to 7 minutes as to what the services are, what the services are being offered for the overseas Pakistanis and their families. That documentary has almost been finalized. The final cut is almost ready. It will be presented tomorrow to us. This documentary will be, made viral through various WhatsApp groups in various overseas Pakistanis destination countries. That is the shortest and quickest possible way of reaching to them. This way they'll come to know, even in Urdu, that what are the services that the government is providing for them, for their benefit, for their welfare. In addition, we keep on, advertising our services in terms of education. We have 25 schools and colleges, plus OPF universities coming up. Housing, we have already launched 10 societies, in which we have already, given 10,000 and more plots to the overseas Pakistanis. As far as the welfare is concerned, there is a complete range of welfare activities that we undertake, and then that I can dilate upon as we go along.
Now, speaking of the Overseas Pakistanis Foundation, that is the OPF, you talked about the welfare of the people. The people need to know that this organization is here for their welfare. I can understand that a lot of people get through this information through word of mouth, because they might not be literate enough to maybe read properly in a certain language. B, once they get that information, how easy or readily available is the access to the different kinds of welfare schemes that the Overseas Pakistanis Foundation has begun for them, for the people who are working there, and for their families who are here in Pakistan?
You see, the world is moving towards digitalization. It's all about the internet. Our website is a very big and a good interface. It entails all our services that we are offering. What are the SOPs for obtaining these services? What are the requirements for anybody applying for any particular service? Furthermore, we have our helplines, we have our advertisement campaigns, say about education or health or housing or welfare. In fact, our biggest problem at times is that our diaspora is not that well educated. So the website part is,
Ruled out.
Kind of ruled out. However, the smartphones are there. Even the laborer in the GCC, in Saudi Arabia, in UAE, in Muscat, Oman, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, he has a smartphone. If we can make that documentary that I was just talking about of 6-7 minutes in Urdu and land that documentary in his phone through the WhatsApp groups, etc., he will be able to, kind of apprise himself as to what the services are available for him, and then he can benefit more. However, since the overseas Pakistanis are generally, say, working as a laborer in a factory, there are other overseas Pakistanis also. So what happens is that, what one overseas Pakistani worker has experienced in terms of service, that travels through the word of mouth, and he also tends to avail that opportunity or facility, etc. However, I still feel we need to do a lot in terms of our outreach, because the connect is really not as such established. Even I see, some of my colleagues in civil service who keep asking me, what is this organization about? If that is so, you can understand our plight, that the outreach part, as far as we are concerned, is kind of missing. However, with this Prime Minister Imran Khan, and with the minister in charge that we have, the Special Assistant to the Prime Minister, Zulfikar Abbas Bukhari, They have really helped us a lot because they have a very big connect with this diaspora of ours. With them in place, the word of mouth directly from them has helped us a lot, and at the same time has kind of motivated us to work better for the welfare of overseas Pakistanis.
All right. It's very important to get that connect, because not only is it important for the overseas Pakistanis to know and understand that they are cared for by their respective government where in the country that they are working, and also by the government of their country of origin, but also for the government in question as well, because you talked about Imran Khan Saab. His government, one of his objectives is to bring the remittances, as much of them the remittances from the overseas Pakistanis as possible, so that the investment comes to Pakistan, so that we don't have to rely for foreign exchange from other countries, and we can only rely on our own people who are working in different countries. What kind of objectives is the OPF working with to achieve this?
Remittance is that part that we look forward to in terms of what the overseas Pakistanis are, sending to Pakistan. I strongly feel that that shouldn't be the only part that we should be looking at. We should be looking at mainly the services that this country is rendering to them or for them.
So that they feel interested in returning to the country, or investing even more in the country.
The remittance will naturally increase as we take care of them more and more.
True.
There are other issues that are linked with remittance that we need to resolve. One, the speedy transfer of money. The Hundi or Hawala part, unfortunately, has transferred the money in lesser time till date. Government of Pakistan has already ventured into e-transaction or e-transfer of money, the mobile wallet scheme, through which the worker or the laborer or the overseas Pakistani is able to transfer the money through his mobile account. Furthermore, there has been always a difference in the interbank rate and the open market rate, say of 3 to 4 rupees per dollar or 1 to 2 rupees per dinar. In order to minimize that differential or the gap, government is now coming up with various schemes like giving up mobile airtime to these overseas Pakistanis, say for 1 rupee airtime for $1 that he sends across to Pakistan. This will help him reduce the hit that he takes. Furthermore, I would go to the extent that we need to incentivize them, say with giving them duty credits or duty-free import of few things that they normally bring with them when they're coming from abroad. At the airport, depending upon the higher the remittance you send, the greater it should be the duty credit. In addition, the free renewal of passport, it's already there. They can be allowed duty-free import of cars if they are sending a remittance to a certain level. In addition, they could be given incentives in terms of 5 to 10% extra baggage allowance on PIA, 5 to 10% concession in tickets by PIA. Inland traveling, for example, railways, they can be given preferential treatment in terms of say 10 to 20% concession. They can be given some concessions by an agreement by the government of Pakistan with say Careem or Uber or say Daivo, etc., etc. They can be even given incentives by issuing them loyalty cards to the extent that they are given concessions at Generation, Cardi or McDonald's or KFC, etc. Sky is the limit as your program is.
I think it's very important to give them those incentives so that they invest more or they feel more interested in coming back, or telling their families to continue their education here, or telling their families to live here, to buy land or to buy houses. Speaking of that, welfare schemes is one thing, education is another very important aspect of it. Whosoever is the overseas Pakistani, he needs to be sure and confident that his children who are here, while he is part of that labor class who's working especially in the GCC countries, are catered to in an effective manner. How important is education to the OPF?
You know, education is one basic facility, or I would say a right, which is very, very important to the overseas Pakistani in terms of their children who are living here. OPF has put up 25 schools and colleges across the length and breadth of Pakistan, which means that overseas Pakistanis are given one, first right of admission in these schools and colleges, two, they're getting 50% tuition fee concession. These are two big facilities. First right of admission means that even if they're coming in the middle of the session, because different countries have different calendar years or sessions, so to speak, of their academic system, when they move to Pakistan, most of the private schools would regret admission. OPF is the one who welcomes them because, you know, somebody needs to take care of them. So first right of admission to 50% tuition fee concession, and then we have recently decided that instead of putting more and more brick and mortar or schools, so to speak, or colleges, we need to go the scholarship route. Any student who is anywhere in Pakistan of a bona fide overseas Pakistani is scoring 60% or above can apply to OPF through its website, and we will, you know, pick up the cost of his tuition fee, and if he is living in a hostel, we'll pick up the boarding and lodging expense as well. So we are giving a lot of scholarships now at the intermediate, bachelor's and master's level. This is much cheaper for the government and much easier for the overseas Pakistanis children as such. You need to qualify two things in order to get the scholarship. One, you need to be the son or a daughter of a bona fide overseas Pakistani. Two, you need to score more than 60%. And there is a third caveat, which is that the salary of your father or mother, whosoever is the overseas Pakistani out of the two, has to be lower than rupees 1 lakh per month. So all the children of overseas Pakistanis, I would suggest that, you know, look at your scores, apply through our website, the forms are available, and we can pick up your tuition fee expense or even boarding and lodging if you're in the hostels.
Dr. Sheikh, how good or to which level is the education in these institutions? How much of importance do you give to that as well?
If I were to, you know, kind of explain the standard of education at OPF institutions, we have regularly been getting positions in the metric board, in the FSC. Our list of A stars and A's and O and A levels is huge. Last year we stood first in metric. This year we were third in metric. Furthermore, there's a lot of pressure on us when that admission year starts, you know, because there are too many children who want to get into our institution, and you know, we have limited seats. Furthermore, if I were to give you an example, even the children of Benazir Bhutto, you know, they were studying in our institution. The strength of our educational system is not that, you know, we are better than, you know, any school or less than any schooling system. It's just that we are focusing on Eastern values and at the same time better standard of education. There are a lot of complaints in terms of, you know, different school chains which are high end, where the Eastern values or the Pakistani culture is being compromised. We cater to that section. We have that strength in our educational system where the Eastern values and Pakistani culture is taken care of. It's not that liberated that, you know, you normally hear the critique. Furthermore, if we were to compare the results, you know, we are as good or as bad as any of the leading institution or chain.
Understand.
So the best part of our education is we are still remaining Eastern and sticking to our values and producing results.
All right.
Yeah.
Producing results is very important. I think when you give good education in a certain criteria and with incentives to the children of the overseas Pakistanis, more and more would come, and as you said, there's a lot of pressure when the academic year begins. But education is not the only factor that would interest an overseas Pakistanis. He needs to also think of in terms of land, in terms of a house. He says, all right, I don't earn enough abroad, that is why my family is here, but I would like that in a certain number of years, my family can have a house of its own, have maybe agricultural land of its own, where our further generations can work on different produce. What kind of incentives do you give as far as that is concerned? I know you've got different housing schemes for the overseas Pakistanis and other things in that respect. Could you highlight some of the important points as far as housing for the overseas Pakistanis is concerned?
No, housing is a basic necessity. The overseas Pakistanis, they have an issue in terms of, being abroad. It's difficult for them to construct a house here or purchase a plot for, say, in any private society where they run the risk of, even losing their money. It could not be as good in terms of, its future prognosis as at the time of launch, the way it's being, projected. It's a very safe setup, OPF. We have so far launched around 10 housing societies. 7 of them are already complete. We have handed over the possession of around 10,500 plots to the overseas Pakistanis. They have constructed homes there and they're living there. 3 of them are ongoing, and 3 or 4 are, these 3 or 4 that are ongoing are substantially completed, and there are 2 or 3 which are the upcoming schemes. So we kind of try to take care of the housing part of the overseas Pakistanis as well. However, considering the size of our diaspora, which is huge, we have recently proposed that all public sector housing societies like CDA, KDA, MDA, LDA, etc., they should, fix a quota for the overseas Pakistanis, say 10 to 15% of the plots of any scheme that they launch. This will certainly not only help the overseas Pakistanis in terms of their housing facility, but will also fetch a lot of foreign exchange for the government of Pakistan.
All right. Now, speaking of this housing or education, a person goes abroad to earn a livelihood for himself and for his family, for his wife, his children, sometimes even for his parents, his brothers and sisters. Sometimes, unfortunately, the person passes away or has a debilitating injury during the course of his work that prevents him from working further in an overseas country. Do you give certain benefits in that case to the families of the overseas Pakistanis so that the families can live in peace, even knowing that the person who is the bread earner in the family cannot provide the same amount of money every month that he used to in the previous
Yes, that's a good question. In fact, death is a process which perhaps cannot be avoided. Yeah, or even disability, yes. They do happen, it does happen. The OPF has a scheme that anybody who's an overseas Pakistani intends to pass away, we provide 4 lakh rupees as death grant to his family. If somebody is disabled and there is a categorization as to what is, disability, we provide rupees 3 lakh to his family.
All right.
This is not just the end of it. Every Pakistani that moves abroad for work is registered with the Protector of Immigrants under the Bureau of Immigration and Overseas Employment. He is compulsorily insured in terms of death and disability with State Life Insurance Corporation of Pakistan for rupees 2,500 as premium for 5 years. If he passes in those 5 years, he gets a death compensation grant of rupees 10 lakhs. And the disability grant ranging from between 5 lakh to 10 lakhs, depending upon the kind of disability he has. So 4 lakhs as death grant from OPF, 10 lakh from State Life Insurance Corporation through Bureau of Immigration, 14 lakhs plus Overseas Pakistanis Foundation gets in touch with his employer abroad, say in Saudi or UAE. Every Pakistani who has moved abroad has a foreign service agreement with the employer, which means that his death on job is catered for with the employer, and he also pays certain amount of dues as compensations. The Overseas Pakistani Foundation gets in touch with his employer through the embassy, through our CWA, obtains that check and delivers it to his hometown or doorstep. So 10 plus 4 plus 5 or 6 lakhs minimum there, at least he gets 20 lakh rupees. So it's not that we are leaving our overseas Pakistanis and their families just in the lurk. The government of Pakistan does tend to take care of them in case of death or disability, and to the extent that sometimes if he's earning say around 30,000 in Saudi Arabia, he's able to send around 15,000-16,000 rupees home, and consumes the remaining for his own living there. This 15,000-16,000 that the family is getting, this 20 lakh and plus that he gets at the time of death is kind of continuity in terms of the interest rate that the family is going to get as a continuous stream of income. So they are kind of looked after in terms of their death or disability issues.
In case of this death and disability, I'm trying to kind of understand myself as a layman. Sometimes the family is not that well educated. The person has a disability or passes away, unfortunately. How does the OPF contact the family? Because sometimes the family does not know that it needs to contact the OPF, or there are certain advantages or benefits for the families of the deceased or the disabled person.
No Pakistani who dies abroad, when his body is being brought to Pakistan, can avoid the embassy of Pakistan, because they have to get the NOC from there. Because the host government requires an NOC from that particular embassy whose national he was, and when his friends or family or relatives approach, say in UAE or Saudi to the embassy informs them while giving the NOC that the death grant or the disability grant will be paid by OPF and the State Life Insurance Corporation, and your remaining death grant or the disability grant with your employer will be picked up by the community welfare attaché in this mission, and the check will be sent to OPF, who sends it across to the district in which he is residing, and that is delivered. So there is hardly any issue here in terms of communication or not knowing our service. The problem comes when they apply late. The issue is that sometimes the widow is not literate, or somehow the process in which they have to complete the process in 3 years after the death of that overseas Pakistani. Unfortunately, the law or the rules as of now are that they have to apply within 3 years. So majority of the cases, say 90 to 95%, they are able to apply within 3 years. There are only a few cases who tend to apply after that. OPF is unable to deliver the grant because that's what the rules of OPF are. However, the State Life Insurance Corporation or the employer part, that is still taken care of.
All right. A lot of overseas Pakistanis, as you said, buy land through the different schemes that are provided by the OPF. But there is one aspect that is very negative in all of this, because sometimes the families remain abroad and they buy land here through the schemes. And then there is this question mark of the land mafia, the land grabbing mafia, that sometimes does not allow the responsible people to have access to their land. Does the OPF help the overseas Pakistanis in that case, in case a land grabbing mafia or some society or some person has unduly taken the land that belongs to an overseas Pakistani?
This issue is as much problematic for a normal overseas Pakistani as much as it is for the overseas Pakistani. We all are a part of the same society.
True.
If your land is, occupied by somebody who is, well connected or powerful, etc., or is part of the land mafia, it is not that easy to, kind of get that vacated. Unfortunately, it happens more so for the overseas Pakistanis because they are softer targets. They are abroad.
Because they don't have access, they don't know what's happening here.
Yeah, very true. But let me, kind of try to break down these statistics.
Fine.
In 50% of the cases, the Kabza mafia is not the political or the local clout that we are normally thinking. It's their own chacha, mama, bhanja, batija, or they have occupied that because they know he's there abroad and he would not be able to pursue as vigorously as he would have been had he been here. Furthermore, our own systems and processes in terms of our policing system, in terms of our judicial system, they are, kind of long and protracted. So it takes time. I would suggest to all the overseas Pakistanis who have this issue, OPF has an online complaint management system. Launch a complaint with all the documents enclosed. Let us pursue that complaint. On their behalf, we'll keep them posted in real time. Whatever is the departmental reply, say from the revenue department or from the police. And I would even suggest that Pakistan Citizens Portal, that is getting even a better response than OPF, so they are most welcome to apply there as well, because as far as the Prime Minister's Citizens Portal is concerned, the response there is a shade better than what we get in OPF. So, and there is a third option as well if you'd like to explore that. The Call Sar Zameen portal in the Ministry of Overseas Pakistanis. Apply anywhere you feel like. We will pursue the complaint on your behalf, but keep the documents attached or handy so that we can pursue it all the way through with the local authorities.
Yeah. All right. I mean, very interesting initiatives that you talk about, whether it be education or land or the different incentives that you give to the families and to the overseas Pakistanis, whether they are there or whether they return to Pakistan whenever they want. And of course, also for the remittances that are important for them and are also important for the government as far as foreign exchange reserves is concerned. Now, any new initiatives that we should look forward for from the OPF in the coming months and years that you are working on, and for the benefit of the overseas Pakistanis, that, I mean, whenever one is a citizen of a country and abroad, one needs to feel secure that somebody is taking care of you in your country of origin. So are there some more initiatives that we can maybe talk about or maybe highlight?
There is a complete range of initiatives that the current government has undertaken in the last 1 year or so. There's a complete list. If you would like, I can, get into that. But let's talk about the main thing, first thing first, and then we can get down to the other initiatives that this government has taken. Say, for example, health was an important component which mattered as far as the overseas Pakistani was concerned as to who's taking care of their health issues. Whenever he's abroad as a worker or even as a engineer somewhere and his family is in Pakistan, he's a lot worried. He's very concerned that his child is sick or his wife is suffering, and since the male member is already abroad, who's going to take care of them? Government of Pakistan has launched the National Health Insurance Program, which is the Sehat Sahulat Program. All the immigrants who migrate for working abroad will be given a Sehat Insaf card from 15th October onwards, which means that you can get the services of rupees 7,20,000 rupees in a given year in terms of health facilities. There are different private hospitals that are empaneled in that health Sehat Insaf card. You can go there and avail those facilities, which are up to 7,20,000 in a given year. So this is one big initiative that this government has come up with. It was not existent earlier. Furthermore, there are several housing projects that are coming up. For example, we are coming up with country homes and apartment buildings in Zone 5 Islamabad. We are coming up, we have recently launched the farmhouses in Lahore. We are coming up again with apartments in Lahore. So there's a lot coming up in terms of housing. Then whenever somebody visits Pakistan and visits OPF and overseas Pakistani, he has issues with Nadra. We have established an office of Nadra in the OPF building so that when he comes he can get the NICOP as well done there. Similarly, we are putting up a passport office inside the building of OPF, which means that providing one window solution to all the problems of overseas Pakistanis, so it doesn't have to go from one office to the other, then the second, then third one. Once he comes to OPF, it's a kind of one window facilitation services. We provide, the NICOP facility or the NADA services, or the bank is there as well, then the passport service, and so on and so forth. In addition, if we are to look forward in terms of, education as to what we are doing, what are the initiatives, in F11 Islamabad, we are coming up.
The university.
Yeah, we are coming up with the first ever university for the children of overseas Pakistanis. It will be up and running by June 2020. It will be a good service to the children of overseas Pakistanis. They can look forward to it because it will be as good as our F8 college or H8 college in Islamabad. So there's a complete range of there is an OPAC coming up, Overseas Pakistanis Advisory Council. It's a council consisting of 50 overseas Pakistanis from across the globe who are to advise the government of Pakistan about what their problems are and what they think are the solutions. We'll look into them and accordingly get back to them so that they can, advise the government on their own issues and resolve those issues sitting with the government. Then there is OPYC. In addition to OPAC, which is Overseas Pakistanis Advisory Council, we are coming up with Overseas Pakistanis Youth Council, which means that, students who are, say, in the West, Europe or UK or USA, they are kind of second or third generation. They have kind of never visited Pakistan, and the image that they have is, the flowing beards or the bare ankles or the terrorism all around, what they see on BBC or CNN. We would rather like to, bring them to Pakistan for a, kind of 10 to 20 days visit. Let them have an interface with various factions of the society, see their roots, see their culture, see their heritage, and see the economy and the country as such directly with their own eyes. I'm sure when they'll go back, they'll act as our ambassadors.
I think that it's very important, Dr. Amir Sheikh, for the overseas Pakistanis, for those who do not understand how important it is to relink themselves with Pakistan, their country of origin, to understand how important it is for them to understand what their country of origin is all about and what kind of incentives it is giving to them, has given to their fathers and their forefathers who have been working for Pakistan in different countries. Thank you so very much, Dr. Amir Sheikh, for all the valuable information that you have provided us as far as the Overseas Pakistanis Foundation is concerned, and all that your organization has been doing and all that you have been doing also as in the context of Managing Director of the OPF. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of this very interesting and informative program about overseas Pakistanis. So if you are anywhere in the world and you are a Pakistani national, understand that the government of Pakistan, that the OPF is there for you, is there to help you, is there to make you understand how important it is for you to invest in Pakistan, how important Pakistan is to you, and how important you are to Pakistan. Umar Khalid bids you farewell from this segment of Sky's the Limit. We'll be back inshallah next week, same time, same channel. Take care of yourselves. Allah Hafiz. And sir, thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.